Hello, YouTubers. My name is Alexandria, and I'm here to talk about my experiences with SEAP. Now, before I get into that, I wanted to talk a little bit about myself and my background. Um, I am a very technical person in terms of web technology. I have been involved in web technology since 1998, where I was a freelance web developer. Um, Then I got a permanent job in 1999 as a web developer for Thomson. And then after that, I was doing technical support here and there. And I became a product manager, a web product manager. And, uh, and I just kept going from there. So um, when I got laid off from my last job, I became unemployed. And I just wanted to do something more than work in an industry that meet the standards that I think should be met in the web industry. Um, so I received a letter one day from this program called SEAP, which stands for Self-Employment Assistance Program. And this is a Department of Labor program that allows people who are on unemployment benefits to create their own small business. Now, there are many misconceptions that I received when I first heard about this program. First, to learn more about the program, you have to get accepted into it. I asked around to my other friends that were also unemployed if they've ever heard of SEAP before, and they had no idea what it is or what it was. And so I had to do my own research. So when I got this letter in the mail talking about it, I realized, you know what, let me just give it a chance and see what's going on. So the first thing that they do is they tell you a little bit of detail about the program. And they said, if you're interested, email this number or call this number, and we'll tell you more about it. So when you send the email, what they do is they schedule an appointment so that you can come in to this session, and the Department of Labor and the other members of SEAP come in, and you are in a room full of other people, and they show you and tell you a little bit about what the program is. So on October 1st, I went to the first session, and it's essentially a 4-hour session. I had to trek from South Staten Island to downtown Brooklyn, to the Brooklyn Museum, library, actually, the Brooklyn Library, and go to the session to find out more information about it. Now, because this session was in Brooklyn, all the resources were also about Brooklyn. So if you had any questions on the small business resources that were available through the Brooklyn Library, they would tell you about that, but they wouldn't know anything from any other borough. So that was one thing that I found very interesting. But just to, talk to other people through other boroughs, through the libraries, and find out more information if they have small business resources, which I found that some of them do, some of them don't, or at least they weren't outlined very well. Anyway, so when they take you through the program, they tell you that there will be a cut in your unemployment benefits. And what I mean by that is, well, let me just first say that when I first went to the Unemployment Department of Labor and started out getting my unemployment benefits, that first visit, they make you do a session and they tell you what's available through unemployment. And when they mention SEAP, they say that your unemployment benefits stop. And that's not true. There's actually very specific things that occur when you go into the program. So when you go to the session from SEAP, you actually learn that your unemployment benefits don't actually stop. What actually happens is, first of all, you have to be eligible for 13 weeks or more of unemployment benefits to get accepted into SEAP. So for me, when I went into the first session, I was only 8 weeks in. So um, so that was good. But after 26 weeks of unemployment benefits and being in the SEAP program, your unemployment benefits stop because they assume that you will no longer need unemployment benefits because you're self-employed. Now, you may not be making anything while under this program because they don't give you anything. There is no funding through SEAP. So you do have to be aware that, if you are in the program, you have to make sure that uh, you continue to save your money or research funding. So that's very important about SEAP. Another thing is that with SEAP, if you choose to withdraw from SEAP, you'll continue to get your uninsurance benefits. So it's kind of a win-win. The only disadvantage at this point is that once you're in SEAP, you no longer are able to use the Department of Labor's website or telephone service to file for your unemployment benefits. What ends up happening is SEAP takes over those payments and you have to mail in a coupon or fax a coupon. This is actually a very recent thing, and I called them up about it. I asked them, during the session, they say, we only allow people to mail the coupon. And the coupon generally states the same exact thing as what the website does, or if you fax it, however you do it. It's all the same questions, essentially, just to make sure that you're not making over 400 or whatever amount of money, which is the maximum. I think it's $420 right now, which is the max amount of unemployment benefits that you can receive in New York State. So if you're receiving more than that, then you're no longer eligible, or you're not going to get that week of payments if it's part-time. So, or they'll adjust it, and whatever it is. If you're self-employed, if you're on SEAP, they ask you the same type of questions as normal unemployment website, but instead you can fax the coupon, which is good if you have a fax. My printer happens to be an all-in-one, so I can fax my coupons over to them easily. Now, I just started this program on Monday, so I don't know how long it's going to take for me to get my unemployment check. I don't know if they have access to the direct deposit. I don't remember that part of the session, so that's another thing I need to find out. But if I get a check in the mail, then I'll know that that's how they send it. Anyway, so how do you get started with SEAP? Once you get the letter in the mail and then you go to the session, what happens after that? Well, they give you this envelope with a whole bunch of information, different pamphlets on what to fill out and how to survey yourself to see if you're actually ready to be self-employed. They tell you the risks associated with being on SEAP, and just in general looking for to be your own business owner. So there are several things that they're very good at asking and telling you about. You can ask questions. And so once you get this envelope, they have a form that you have to fill out. And the form basically says, what is your business idea? Where do you plan on having your business? What else? How will this affect, you as a whole, and also the economy? So there are different questions that you have to think about, as well as what they ask on that pamphlet. So once you complete that form, it's very general, it's very basic. You either have to mail it to them or fax it to them. Now, I chose to fax it to them because during the session they said that a response would come quicker if you fax it. Now, my whole thing is that when I finally received it, and mind you, I went to the session October 1st. They didn't mail it until October 16th, and I didn't receive it until this weekend. So, which is like before October 20th. So, and I didn't check my mailbox over the weekend. So when I went to the unemployment website to file for my benefits as usual, they said I couldn't. And so I ran to the mailbox, checked to see if they sent me anything, and sure enough, they did. And I got accepted into the program. My main business idea is to try to create workshops for women in technology so that they can learn more about technology on a professional level. Many times when you are going to school, they give you an introductory level where they give you scenarios of how to use the technology, but they don't really give you scenarios of what will happen when you're actually in the job, what will happen when you're speaking with customers, building a website, or things of that nature. So these are things that I want to kind of help women with. And women are so rarely seen in the web technology industry. It seems to be growing a little bit, but to me, it's still not enough. I have almost always been the one female of my department that wasn't in design. I was on the development side. So, I mean, in one of my jobs when I was a product manager, there were women on the front end development team, which means that they do a little bit of coding and they also do design, but not so much design. They're still on a development side. So that was interesting. That was a first. But for the most part, I've been normally the only female of my engineering team. So this is something that I think needs more exposure to. And so therefore I want to create workshops that are not only more personable, so that they could, people can actually physically go to the workshop and ask questions and things of that nature. But I also want to do an online session where, while people, if you can't make it to the classroom, then, or the workshop, then you have the ability to watch it online and ask questions online. The only problem with that is, like, when you're starting up a business, you have to have the technology, you have to have the space for the classroom, you have to have maybe certifications, licenses, whatever have you. I have a master's degree in information technology management, and I also have a bachelor's degree in information system security and information technology. So I have both work experience and educational experience in the industry. However, I'm not licensed as a New York State teacher, so that might be something that I need to look into. So these are all things that I need to find out a little bit more about. But anyway, so once you submit the information to SEAP, you have to wait for the approval process. So you get a package. They tell you get a package in the mail, and as I said before, it was mailed to me 2 weeks after the session, and I faxed it the day after the session. So I faxed it on October 2nd. I didn't get it mailed to me until October 16th. I didn't receive it until around October 20th. So that was like more than 2 weeks. Then what happens is you get a whole bunch of forms in this packet. So the basically says, well, congratulations, welcome to the program. I'm so glad to have you here. Then the next form basically says, these are your coupons. You need to fill out these coupons and fax them or mail them to us so that you can still continue to receive your unemployment benefits. Now I'm like 11 weeks in on my unemployment benefits, and that means that I have about 15 more weeks left because SEAP only allows you to collect 26 weeks of unemployment benefits. Now, in the packet, you get a letter that also says if you choose to withdraw from the program, then you will continue to receive your unemployment benefits. But if not, then you'll lose them because you're supposedly supposed to be making your own self-employment money. So something to be aware of. So there's the coupons, there's the withdrawal letter, then there's another letter that has a sort of like a benchmark. It says benchmark. Let me see what exactly it says. It is called the benchmark due dates, and it's essentially a calendar of the things that you need to submit while you're on the program. If you are late to submitting any of this information, what will happen is it will stop your unemployment benefits because they want to know why you haven't submit any of the benchmarks that they ask for. So just to give a general idea of what they ask for, the first one says individual services plan. The description is your business counselor's information and a list of the classes that you would like to complete the required 20 hours of business training. So essentially what you need to do is find a mentor. Now, two things about this program. Not only do they not give you any funding for your self-employment, so there's no grants, there's no loans, nothing like that. The Department of Labor is making you do all the research yourself. The only thing is that they're kind of guiding you through the process. So for me, this is beneficial because I know nothing about starting a business. I don't really know anyone that didn't have any resources to start their own business. All the people that I know of, when I asked, how did you start your business, they essentially said it was either organic or they borrowed money from their family. Well, I don't have that luxury. So I needed to, this is a great kind of step-by-step guide of what to do. Plus, with the mentor, they tell you what you need to do if you have any questions. These are resources that are extremely valuable to people who have absolutely no clue what to do, like myself. So the first thing I had to do was find a mentor. And at the SEAP session, they highly recommended that I speak with someone at SCORE. Now, SCORE is an organization from the government that is, it stands for Service Corps of Retired Executives. Now, essentially what that means is that if you were an executive, if you had your own business at some point in time and you become retired, you can choose to volunteer and help other people who want to start a business. And so I'm in Staten Island, as I mentioned earlier, and all the SCORE offices that I was told about during the session were in Brooklyn. Now, that wasn't useful to me, so I had to do my own research. And so I found out that there are actually 2 different offices, SCORE offices in Staten Island, which I thought was great. Now, so I just needed to find out which one was the closest, right? So I took a bus because I don't drive. I took a bus to the SCORE office that is near Dungan Hills, and they were located inside a bank. And so I entered the bank, and I mean, I saw a SCORE sign on the outside of the bank, so I knew that they were there. But when you go into the bank, there wasn't anything indicating exactly where their offices was. And so I looked confused, obviously. I was like, where am I supposed to go? So a teller said, hey, you look lost. Do you need any help? And I told her I was looking for a SCORE, and she was like, oh yeah, just go down the hall and make a left, and the offices are right there. So I go there, and I realized that half of the people that are in SCORE are in a session, and the other half are in an office. And so I go to the office, and I said, hey, I'm looking for a SCORE mentor. Can someone help me? And they asked me my name, and the woman that told me about SCORE, what happened was, after I did the research, I emailed them saying, I'm interested in finding a mentor with SCORE, and she emailed me saying their offices are only open Tuesday and Thursday from 9 a.m. to noon. So when I went the next day, this is what happened. And she said, oh, hey, I'm the same person that emailed you. I'll be your mentor. So I was like, oh, okay, great. So when I sat down with my mentor, she didn't really know too much about SEAP, although she knew about the program in terms of like just general knowledge of that you're obviously unemployed, and SEAP is supposed to help you, but she didn't really know a lot of the details. She went to her managers to ask, and then she knew a lot more than she did before. So now I had this piece of paper which required me to have her sign it and enter her the address of the office and phone number, and also the date saying when I visited her. So this is one of the benchmarks that SEAP requires. So before she signed it, we were talking first so that we can get to know each other and see if it's a good fit. And in general, although I don't think that she's really that familiar with the technology, but she was familiar enough to actually hold somewhat of a conversation. So when she started saying, who are your competitors? Do you know who your competitors are? And I was like, I don't have any competitors. I plan on having a workshop near the Staten Island Ferry. And she was like, there are similar organizations that do the same exact thing online. How are you going to compete with them? Now, this was something I had no idea. She just brought up some ideas that I didn't think about. And so essentially the things that we covered within less than an hour basically was, how are you going to cultivate relationships? How are you going to network with the professionals? How are you going to analyze the competition? She said, what type of licensing, permits, or certificates do you need? How are you going to find clients? How are you going to get funding? Are you going to go through grants or loans? And then she was very frank with me when she said, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get a grant because everybody is applying to them, and most likely you're not going to get one. That kind of hurt because there are like hundreds of grants out there that you can apply to. I'm not going to get one. That's not going to really stop me from trying, but I don't think she was lying whatsoever. Like I believe that everything she told me is true. that it's probably extremely difficult. It's probably like a 1% chance that I would get any sort of grant, especially since I want to do a for-profit organization, not a non-for-profit. Most of the time, non-for-profits you can get grants a little bit easier, but the government and all these other organizations don't want to hear it. If you have a for-profit organization, you have to raise your money yourself. So anyway, so it was extremely helpful. I liked her a lot. After that, she signed my form, and I left from that point. When I got home, I did a little bit more research, and I found out that you also have to do 20 hours of business training. So how am I going to get that? So there were a couple things that I looked up, and one of the things that I found out about was that the College of Staten Island offers a free 3-credit entrepreneurship course, and so I wanted to find out more about it. Now, I had called them previously, and we've been kind of playing phone tag, but then I realized, they're also open on Tuesdays. So I called them up yesterday, and I got a live person finally, because it usually goes straight to voicemail. And so when I contacted her, she said, we have this great, but we would like you to come in and go to a session first so you can learn a little bit more about what it's about. It's like, okay. First of all, this program, this particular course is free because the Department of Labor put funding into it. Excuse me. So that's something that I didn't realize you needed to have some sort of approval process for. So I scheduled an appointment with her for Thursday. So tomorrow I'll be going. It's not until 4 p.m. So I will probably, post a video about it or audio about it on Friday to let you guys know, if you're interested, my experiences with it. But yeah, so that's something that's interesting. Also on Tuesday, or actually was it Monday? Monday, I also contacted the small business services at Workforce One. Now, the only reason that I know about it is because when I became unemployed, the Department of Labor sends Staten Islanders to the unemployment office by the ferry. And so in that same office, they share space with an organization called Workforce One. And what they do is they have different functions, but Workforce One, when I first heard of them, I found out that they do recruiting. So they will recruit you to job listing, just like a normal recruitment service. But the job offerings are extremely low wage. Like, I'm looking for more of a technical product manager type position, and they had positions for cashiers. So not exactly a good fit, not what I'm looking for. I would actually be making less money off of being a cashier than I would on unemployment. So that's not something that I was looking for. And they didn't suggest it, but that's the kind of listings that they kind of have. And so, they're a service that's helpful for people who really don't have a lot of experience in the workplace. So they're great. But I noticed when I went to the unemployment office that they also had one large window that said small business services. So I called them up and I asked them, what is your small business services offer? Are you guys familiar with SEAP? They're not familiar with SEAP either. I explained what SEAP was, and and then they told me a little bit about their services. Now you can find out what their services are on nyc.gov/NYC business. And that's also going to be on my YouTube page, the About section. So when they told me about their services, I thought they were great. They have workshops that are all free. So if you want to learn how to build a website, or learn how to finance your organization, or become an entrepreneur and start your own business, they have all of these workshops. The only thing is that you have to go online and schedule an appointment so that you could save a seat and be able to join it, because evidently they get booked very quickly. So it's something to consider, which is very good. And then I told them about the College of Staten Island and if they knew about it. And they didn't know about the entrepreneur program either. Everywhere I go, I try to give information as well as take information. So these are things that people just don't know about, that are out there. And I think it's really important for people who are unemployed to see these opportunities and not just take a job that they don't want to do. If they want to start a business, they should be able to start a business. And so there are all of these resources out there that can help you. Anyway, so the small business services, they sounded really good. So I may eventually take some workshops with them too, trying to weed out the programs that would be useful and the ones that won't. Also, you can take online courses, and that counts as the 20 hours. Now, the whole thing with that, though, is that you have to provide proof that you actually took the course. And so in the packet that you get a form, which you have to make photocopies of, because they don't give it to you, but you have a form where you're supposed to fill it out and get a signature from the teacher who is teaching the workshop. Now, I don't know how you're supposed to do this online, and I'm going to call them up to find out more information, but according to my mentor, she said that all you really need to do is have that email saying that you've gone to the class. So online. So I don't know if that's true. I just want to double check. So there's that. So there's 20 hours that you need to complete a business training. So that you have to do your own research on. And the next benchmark is the business strategy. So you have to make a preliminary business plan. And one great thing about the College of Staten Island's entrepreneur course is they help you create a business plan. But the thing is that you need to create it within the time period that they give you. Luckily, SEAP gives you really ample time to get all this stuff together. So for the individual services plan, which requires the mentor and the 20 hours of training, I get pretty near a month. So I don't have to hand in, mail or fax the form until November 9th. For the business strategy, I have to submit that on December 7th, by December 7th. Now, when I was looking at that particular form, it's about 4 pages long. So there's a lot of information that you have to provide in this business plan. So I'm going to look at the business strategy for a second here. And so in general, so they want to know, here are the questions. What products or services will you provide? Where will your business be located? Will the business own or rent the property? Will your business space have to be modified? Then they ask for all of the modifications. Now, my mentor also mentioned that when you're looking for funding, think of Shark Tank. If you've ever watched that show, Shark Tank, notice how they want to know every little detail and aspect of your business. So my mentor mentions, you have to itemize everything. So they want, on this business plan, they even want an itemized list of everything that you want in your business and the estimated cost. So that's very important. Next question is, will you need equipment for your business? List the equipment, list the supplier name, list the cost. Will the business be a sole proprietorship, corporation, LLC, partnership, franchise, whatever have you? Who are the potential customers? How are you going to advertise your goods and services? Who's your competition? What advantage do you have over your competitors? Suppliers and consultants section. What kind of goods will you be selling? The services, supplier name, initial costs. I mean, this thing just goes on and on. List of professional consultants needed to help you set up your business. You're going to need a lawyer. You're going to need an accountant. You're going to need an insurance agent. You may need other professional services. What licenses, permits, and agreements? Now, these are all things that I went over with my mentor without even looking at this particular form. Then you have to fill out the financial statement area. You know, what are your assets? Cash on hand, cash checking accounts, cash savings account, certificate of deposit, security, etc., etc. They want to know every detail and how much it costs. What are your liabilities? Current debt, loans, taxable payments, real estate mortgages, other liabilities. They want to know all of that information plus the amount. How will you finance your business? Have you received a business loan? Then they go into detail. So here's another part of the itemized list. Decorating and remodeling, fixtures and equipment, installation of fixtures and equipment, services and supplies, beginning inventory costs, legal and professional services, licenses and permits, telephone and or utility deposits, insurance, signs, advertising for opening, unanticipated expenses. And you have to list the cost for every one of those that I've mentioned. Monthly expenses, your living costs, employee wages, business rent, mortgage, or leasing payments, advertising, supplies, utilities, insurance, taxes, miscellaneous, and every cost. How are you prepared to open your business? What will you do? What do you still need to do? What is your estimated opening date? Have you found the most difficult? What have you found the most difficult part of starting your business? Sorry, I'm starting to stumble upon myself now. And that's really the last question. What have you found most difficult about starting your business? So I have until December to fill out this form, and I'm looking at it very intimidated right now. And then there is another part of it. I don't know if, I guess this also has to be filled out. This is the business counselor analysis. In your opinion, how prepared is the program participant to his or her business? So this is what the mentor has to fill out. What future activities or tasks will need to be completed? Additional comments related to participants' business startup. 2 separate sessions with the business counselor are required for participation in the program. Indicate the 2 dates the participant met with the business counselor. If you have any questions, please call SEAP. So there's a lot. This is the one form that has actually 4 pages to it, back and front, of details that you have to fill out. So there's that. And then the next item on the benchmark is an individual progress report, which is a checklist showing the progress of your startup activities. Now, they ask for the completed entrepreneurial or business training, business development plan, established legal structure, federal tax number, business checking account, established home office in home or signed a lease for outside the office, for outside the home, secured need of equipment, develop marketing plan for the business and your products, began advertising of product or service, purchased business insurance, obtained needed business licenses and permits, hired staff, developed a record-keeping and accounting system, and started providing goods or services. This is a checklist, and they ask for the dates that it's been completed, the projected completion date, and comments. On the back of the form, it also says progress on activities not listed, typical number of days per week you spend on startup activities, typical number of hours per day on startup activities, challenges in starting your business, and then you sign and date it. So that's the individual progress report. Then, you don't have to, when you list the 20 hours in your initial individual services plan, that's just a plan. It's not it doesn't mean that you have to start your 20 hours right away, but you do have to complete the 20 hours of training. So they ask for the first 10 hours of training to be completed by December 28th. And then you submit a form verifying that information, and the person who is in charge of the workshop or training has to sign and verify that information. Then the next verification form of the last 10 hours of training is on January 18th. So I do have plenty of time, but my whole concern right now is if I do choose to go into the College of Staten Island's program, will that give me enough time to actually be able to complete it? And will it be 20 hours? How many hours is it? They didn't tell me anything. They just said, please come to the session and we'll tell you everything you need to know about the program. So although I feel that's shady, it seems like that's a typical pattern that they have, mainly because they want to encourage you to do it. So I'm going to do it, and that session is tomorrow. Outside of that, there are a lot of funding opportunities that you can get through other organizations, but there's a list on the Small Business Administration website from the government, and it's on the website itself. There's a tab that says loans and grants. And they also have questionnaires on whether or not you'll be eligible for a loan or grant. So these are things that you have to do a lot of research. And there are hundreds of resources. The whole problem is if you choose to go the grant route, don't get your hopes up. It's essentially the same thing as what my mentor said. So I'm still going to try to apply for them, but the realization may be that if I'm going to have to take out a loan, that I may have to quit the program because I really can't afford to go into more debt. I have a mortgage, I have school loans, and I have credit card debt. So that already is too much. I am not making enough unless I could make enough maybe online or something. I don't know. I have to see how I'm going to go about making an income. So there are a lot of things I have to look at. For those who are starting an online business, maybe they won't even need all that much money. But I don't think they would get approved for this particular program. There is another program though that it's called the Crafts Entrepreneurship Program or something similar to that the Department of Labor also offers, where if you are creating crafts like jewelry or clothing or whatever have you, they will help you create your Etsy webpage. Now, if you're not familiar with Etsy is kind of like eBay, but there's no bidding involved. It's just a store where everybody takes their items, their crafts, and they post a picture of it and then they sell it. And it's a really great website. I highly recommend it for people who want unique items. So that's worth taking a look at also. So there is a program for it where they walk you through setting it up, especially if you're not web savvy or, very familiar with how the internet works. They will walk you through that program. The only problem with the program, to my knowledge, is that um, they only have like a session once a year or something like that. And so it's just not that often. And you have to apply for it early on. So it may be an entire year before the session actually occurs. That's that's what that's how I understand it. I have not been involved in that program, so I'm not very sure about all the details, but I am aware that there is a time period that you have to wait before you can actually get into the program, because they want a full house, and they want a full classroom, and then you'll be able to get into it, and then they'll walk you through everything. Not to mention that you can do it yourself, really, but I'm not sure what other kind of resources that they provide. So I think that's still worth a look. Anyway, so SCORE is a great program where the mentors help you out if you're starting up your own business. The small business services that Workforce One is also has many different opportunities there too, in terms of workshops. The College of Staten Island has an entire entrepreneur program set up. So, and one of those classes is absolutely free. That's funded by the Department of Labor. So, if you're in Staten Island, I would definitely take advantage of that. And then there's the small business, which gives you all different types of information on small business, including loans and grants. So the pro and con of this program so far that I found out is that, the pro is that they guide you through the process. If you're not familiar with self-employment, as I am, or starting up a business, they give you a realistic perspective. It's not from people who have already had the funds. These are people who have worked up from nothing and created their own organization. So essentially, that's what I'm doing. I'm starting up my organization from nothing if I can. I still get to collect unemployment benefits by the 26th week. By the last form that I have here, it's a week before my last benefit. So I know that if I'm unable to submit, these forms for any reason, then I need to withdraw from the program. But the benefit of the program is I can still collect my unemployment for up to 26 weeks. And if after the 26 weeks I no longer need those benefits, I'll have my own business. So ain't that great? But yeah, so that's kind of the disadvantages and pros. The only other disadvantages are that when you go to the actual session, they're not very knowledgeable about the other boroughs. Because the session was in Brooklyn, they only were familiar with the resources that were available in Brooklyn. So if you're in Brooklyn, you are great. But if you're not, you have to do a little bit more research than normal. So there is that. There's also the precaution of, what if your business doesn't succeed after the 26 weeks? You lose your unemployment benefits, and you're trying to be self-employed. I mean, they usually say that within the first couple of years, you're really going to be in the negatives in terms of money. So this is something that you have to be aware of also when you're in the program. If you don't have kind of that support, it's not that easy. And although my husband is paying for half of all the bills, I am responsible for the other half. So that means that while I'm doing this self-employment program, if I'm in danger of not being successful here, then I have to find a full-time job. In addition to that, I think that there is a need for the business that I want, but it's not going to be that simple because in Staten Island there are very few, if any, office space for professional use. Most of the time, all the businesses in Staten Island are uh, retail space, and the anything that's not retail is essentially a house. So uh, you do have other professionals like doctors and dentists and whatever have you, but they're not along the lines of technology really. There is a an organization called Makerspace, which is forming throughout the 5 boroughs, and they allow you to rent out space there. But I don't know how feasible that is, or what they're going to charge me, if anything. They did look very inexpensive, but if I'm not getting enough of an income, it won't really be worth it. So, so again, more things to think about. Anyway, I'm going to wrap up this session. If you are interested in emailing me on anything, my email address is alex@alexandriavelez.com. That's ALEXAN. Oh wait, sorry. ALEX@ALEXANDRIAVELEZ.com. And if you want to come back to this video, you will find me on youtube.com/Alexandria Velez. Thank you, and I hope you enjoyed the show. Bye.